Welcome to today's video. My name is Larissa Hearn and I work for Rocky Mountain Sewing and Vacuum. Today we're going to be talking about the fabulous BERNINA 790 Plus. Included with the BERNINA 790 Plus, you will receive a soft cover, an accessory box, a knee lift, an extension table, a seam guide for the extension table, a straight stitch needle plate, 3 different spool caps, 4 bobbins, 2 foam pads, a touchscreen stylus, a height compensating tool, machine oil, a selection of needles, a seam ripper, a seam guide, a selection of screwdrivers, a cleaning brush, a power cord, and a foot control. The included accessory feet are the reverse pattern foot to use the dual feed, the overlock foot, the automatic buttonhole foot, the zipper foot, the blind stitch foot, the jeans foot, the open embroidery foot, the sideways motion foot, and the BERNINA Stitch Regulator. Let's talk about winding a bobbin. We're going to place our thread on the spool pin. We're going to use a spool cap, and I like to leave a little bit of room so the thread can move around freely. We're going to go directly over, and we're going to use our first checkpoint through here. We'll hear the thread click in, and then we're going to go to this disc right here. I'm going to follow the direction of the arrow. I'm going to bring the thread over, and this is important. I want to hear and feel the thread click into this disc right here. I'm going to bring the thread all the way around, and we're going to move over to the side. The nice thing about this machine is it will not let you put the bobbin on the wrong way. So if I try to put the bobbin on with the silver lines up, it will not slide down. So if I flip it over, it pops down really easily. That way I know the right way to put the bobbin on. And we're going to wrap the thread around the bobbin in the direction of the arrow. We're just going to wrap the thread around a little bit, and then we're going to kick this lever over, and it's going to start winding the bobbin. It will automatically kick back once your bobbin is full. To put a bobbin into the bobbin case, like the bobbin winder, it will not let you put it in the wrong way. So if I try to put it with the silver lines outward, it will not go into the bobbin case. If I flip it around, it will insert into the bobbin case very easily. I'm going to pull the thread towards the right. It's going to catch in a little gap. I'm going to bring it all the way over to the metal flange, and I'm going to pull it until I feel it click into the tension. To put the bobbin into the machine, the 790 is a front-loading machine. We have a little door right here. I'm going to use my finger and pull it towards myself. The door will open. To put the bobbin case into the machine, I want this metal flange to be at about 1 o'clock. I am going to put it straight forward, and as long as I have it in the right position, it will just click in. After it clicks in, I'm going to bring my tail over to the right. There's a thread cutter. I'm going to pull that thread down, trim the thread, and you're good to go. To get the bobbin out of the machine, there's a little spot to place your finger, and if I lightly press here, the bobbin will actually just pop right out. I can grab it, and it is out of the machine. To thread the machine, you're going to place your desired thread onto the spool pin. You're going to use a spool cap, and you are going to move over to your first checkpoint. I like to keep a bit of tension on the thread. You're going to click it here in the back. We're going to move straight down. We're going to make a U-turn, and then we're going to go up, and we're going to make one more U-turn. It's going to catch on the take-up lever on its own, and then we're going to go down. We have a big bar, and we have a little bar, and then we're going to use our needle threader, and you're going to slowly bring the needle threader down with your left hand. You're going to hold the thread in your right hand. You're going to catch the thread underneath that peg, and we're going to move it over to the opposite side. Then I'm going to push the needle threader all the way down until it clicks past the needle. I'm going to fit this thread in between that gap on the metal, and I'm going to slowly release. And then I have a loop in the back. I'm going to pull that loop through, and the needle is threaded. Let's go over the buttons on the machine. BERNINAs have a very, very conveniently placed knob for both the stitch width and the stitch length. If I turn this here, it will show on the screen the adjustment that I have made, same as the length. Then below that, I have needle position. I can move from the left or the right. Down here, I have my reverse button. This lets me sew backwards. Then I have my favorite button, the scissor button. This will trim both the top and the bottom thread when I am done with my stitching. Above that, I have my presser foot button. I do not have a presser foot lever on this machine, so I'm going to use the button to move the foot up and down. The nice thing about this is when I push this to move down, the machine will automatically send me to a nice hover position so I can get my fabric seated without losing my place. Above that, I have my start-stop button. This will help me sew without the foot control. I like using this when I'm doing decorative stitches so I can keep both hands on my fabric and I can guide the fabric very easily. Above that, I have my speed control. I can move this lever to go faster or slower as I'm stitching. It will also help me find a good speed to pace myself when I'm doing my quilting. Right here, I have an end at the end of the pattern button. This will help me complete a decorative stitch. It's hard sometimes to see if you're at the end of the stitch, so I can tap this button. It'll automatically stop the machine when I'm ready to finish a pattern. Next to that, I have my tie-off function. This is going to help me create a knot or a back stitch at the end and the beginning of my stitches. Right here, I have a button that will get me to the beginning of a pattern. If something happens in my decorative stitch, I can tap this button so I can start at the very beginning. Next to that, I have a needle position. When I tap this, it will send the needle down or up. I want this button because it helps me bring the needle to the highest position, and I need the needle in the highest position to thread the machine. Let's talk about the buttons on the screen. The 790 Plus has a very convenient way to navigate through the machine. When I first turn the machine on, it will always get me started with a straight stitch. It's going to show me how the stitch is going to turn out on the middle of the screen there. If I make any adjustments, it will show me on the screen. I have my utility stitches here. Just below that, I have my decorative stitches. Once I select my decorative stitches, I have many folders of decorative stitches that I can pick from. Below that, I have letters. I have a ton of different fonts on this machine that I can choose from. Once I find the font that I'd like to use, I will tap on the folder and I'm able to scroll through different letters and symbols. Below the letters, I have an assortment of buttonholes. Below the buttonholes, I have quilting stitches. This is convenient because I can find my favorite quilting stitches easily without having to browse through the other categories. Then I have my favorite stitches. If I have a few stitches that I use often and I don't want to have to go find them every time, I can put them in my favorites folder. At the very bottom, I have my most recently used stitches. If I recently used a stitch and I don't remember where I found it, I can use this category down here to find it again easily. This icon is very helpful. It is how I indicate to the machine where I want the needle to end at the end of my stitching. If the needle is down, my needle will end down at the end of my stitching and vice versa. On the far left-hand side, I have some machine settings. At the very top, I have my thread tension. Below that, I have my needle selection. This is where I would go to select a twin needle if I wanted to. Below that, this is one of my favorite features. If I tap this icon of the foot, it will show me the most recommended feet for each stitch that I have selected. It will always show me my most recommended foot, and it will show me other feet that I can use. To get out of this page, you're just going to hit the little X at the top. Below that, I have my presser foot pressure. And below that, I have my needle plate selection. Just below that, I have an indicator to let me know if my feed dogs are up or down. At the very bottom, I have an icon of a bobbin. If I have forgotten how to put a bobbin into the bobbin case or into the machine, I can watch this short video. This button right here is my home button. If I would like to switch back and forth from sewing and embroidery, I will tap this button. Then I have my setup program or my settings button. This is where I can personalize my machine and personalize the settings of the buttons on my machine. Then I have, below that, I have my tutorials button. This is where I can go if I would like help on many of the machine functions. Then I have my creative consultant. Then I have one of my favorite buttons, the help button. If I tap this button, I can tap anything on the screen and it will let me know what that means. Then I have my eco button. By pushing this, my machine will go into eco mode. Then I have my delete settings button. If I have made changes to a stitch that I do not want to keep, I can hit this button and it will bring me back to the factory setting. To engage the dual feed, you will reach your hand to the back of the machine and you'll feel a point sticking out. I'm going to push that point down and it will engage the dual feed very easily. To disengage the dual feed, you're going to pinch and pull straight down and it will kick back out of the way.